What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 5. It's all about the journey. So let's talk about Nicole and Chris. So I'm not exactly sure what day we're on the honeymoon. I don't know if it's day 2 or 3, but they are having a conversation, and Nicole happens to bring up decision day. Now, she brings it up very casually. She doesn't put a lot into it. She's just trying to make a point about something else, but she did bring up decision day. And that makes me really nervous because I don't want these people to talk about decision day, especially on their honeymoon. That should be something that should be happening more towards the end. And because I feel like whenever they start talking about decision day, they get really caught up in that and they get really into, what am I going to decide? What are they going to decide? And they're so wrapped up into the decision day thing that they forget to live in the moment. They forget to enjoy this process and just, take it in moment by moment, day by day, getting to know each other, getting to grow as a couple. And they get so focused on manipulating everything for a particular outcome for decision day. So she happens to bring up decision day. She didn't put a lot on it. It wasn't too heavy, but she did bring it up. And I was like, damn, here we go. We're still on our honeymoon and she already brought up D-Day. But what she wanted to say was that when it comes to decision day, she wants to make sure that she makes a very confident decision. Well, don't they all, Nicole? They all want to make a confident decision. All of you want to make a confident decision. So that was really not worth saying. So after that, they go do a rum tasting, and Chris was really impressed on how she was just knocking down those rum shots. And then as we're having a conversation, she brings up old Nicole versus new Nicole. Now, the old her before she moved to Nashville was very wild, very hot-headed, very impulsive, very selfish, partying all the time, drinking all the time, because that's what brought up the conversation was the rum. She was reminiscing back to how she used to drink a lot and party a lot, etc. Now, new Nicole, since she's moved to Nashville, has been a whole lot more calm, more level-headed, more responsible, etc. So then she asked him if her hot-headedness would be something that would bother him. And he took a while to answer because he wanted to give a correct answer. And he says, well, I don't know. And then in his little confessional, he says for sure it would bother him. And he says that there'd be no way that he would be able to get along with old Nicole. So definitely he doesn't want a hot-headed woman, an impulsive woman. And hopefully, she can somehow contain her composure. So moving on to dinner. So at dinner, he showers all these compliments on her. I think there was a couple of candles on the dinner table, and he moved them out of the way. And he said, let me move these out of the way so I can, be able to look at you better. And you're so beautiful tonight. And I love your dress. Just showering compliment after compliment after compliment. And then they talked about how they're each other's dream spouses. She says, you're my dream husband. And he says, you're my dream wife, and etc. Now, in all of this lovey-dovey stuff, I just feel like there's something that's kind of like brewing underneath the surface with Chris and Nicole. And I think we got a little hint of it when they talked about planning for a family. So Nicole says that she never wanted kids. She never saw herself with kids because she's very career focused. And she always saw, I guess, her life being very, very busy, trying to better herself and expand her career or achieve all of her goals. So she's been like very work-minded, business-minded, etc. So the idea of being Susie Homemaker, it just never crossed her mind. And raising children, I think she even said that she saw children as something that would hamper her in her goals of, in her career goals. It would slow her down in her career goals, and her career is like the most important thing to her. So she asked him, what he thought about having kids, and he was very precise. He says, yes, I want 2 children. I want a boy and a girl. And Nicole says that, but he says he's not in a rush. He says, yes, I want 2 kids, but I'm not in a rush. It's not like it has to happen tomorrow. And then she asked him, so when would you want to revisit the topic of children? And he says, well, we can give it like a year or 2. which to me, I'm thinking, because he brought up their ages. He says, I'm 36 and you're 32. And, I guess he was trying to say we're getting up there in years. And so let's talk about children. And for him to bring it up and for him to bring up their ages, it made it seem like he kind of wanted to start having children, sooner than later. Not tomorrow, but definitely sooner than later. Like, we're not waiting 10 years. And when he said that he wants to revisit this issue again in a year or two, I mean, that year or two is going to fly by. So it seems like he is interested in having children. But then she says in her confessional that she believes that her and Chris are on the same page about kids. Now, she says that she didn't want children, right? But she's open now that she's a little bit older. She says that she's open to the idea of having kids. But I kind of got the feeling that for her, she could take it or leave it. It's not something that she's constantly thinking about. It's not something that like she doesn't hear her biological clock ticking. The batteries are out of her biological clock. So it just seems like for her, it's kind of like, it's whatever. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm really not going to focus my whole life around conceiving. And I think with him, I think he's a little bit more determined to have children than she is. And so I didn't understand why she said we're on the same page, because he already knows how many children he wants. He's already, he already has like a gender preference of his children. So it seems like he does want children. At some point, he definitely does want children. It's not a, if it happens kind of thing. Like, he wants children. So I'm beginning to think if this is where, the problem kind of starts with Nicole and Chris, because when he said it, when they were talking about children, I got the feeling that with him, like, it was sort of non-negotiable. Like, this is what I want and this is what's going to be happening. You might control when it happens, but I'm going to control that it does happen. I could be wrong. I could be jumping the gun. I don't know. But I kind of felt like he was very, purposeful in his discussion of children. Like, he brought it up for a very specific reason, and he wanted to know and make sure that she was going to be on board. So moving on to Jasmine and Eris. So they talk about they're having breakfast on the balcony, and they talk about her bacon consumption. I don't understand what's going on with Eris. If he talked about how he despises bacon in other episodes, I completely forgot. I don't understand why. I didn't get why he was like so opposed to bacon. I guess he just really hates bacon, because he asked her how much bacon does she eat? Does she eat bacon every day? And she was like, no, not every day. And he was like, what, like 95% of the time? And she's like, well, maybe 50% of the time. And he says, well, you had bacon today, and you had bacon yesterday, and you had bacon the day after we got married. I was like, what is going on? What is up? So anyways, they talk about their past relationships, and he says that his relationships, they would normally end over the littlest things. Like, he would find something that irritated him about the other person, and it could be something really, really minor, and for whatever reason, he'd throw in the gloves and be like, okay, I'm out. And he said that he had met a lot of wonderful, great women in his life, but walked away from it all over trivial things. She said that her relationships would end because she was consumed with work. She was a workaholic. Jasmine's mom right now is going through cancer treatment, and Eris, he was bragging about how he's already won over her mother, and he has like this really great rapport with her mother, and they were talking about how they would be bringing her food to the hospital and stuff like that. And for a split second, I was kind of like, wow, did Jasmine make the right decision to be a part of this process while, her mother was going through this? But, I guess life goes on for everybody. Life has to go on for everybody else. And, you can't sit there and just like wait for the worst to happen. You have to continue living and, just, be prayed up and keep hoping that everything is going to work out for the best. But I was like, wow, how can she be 100% in this marriage when her mother is going through something, so tough, so I was just like, wow, that's a lot. You're marrying a stranger, you got to deal with that. Then, you got to still think about your mom and be there for your mom. It's a lot. So Eris says that he's going to be willing to help with anything he can as far as, as far as her mother. Then they go snorkeling. Jasmine likes how Eris looks without a shirt. Okay, that's a very good sign. Definitely, there is attraction on her side. And when they were in the water, something was going on with his snorkeling equipment, with the mask. I don't know what was going on. It wasn't because of his beard. I guess it couldn't seal properly, so the salt water would seep into his mouth. And so she was trying to help him with that. And he said that he liked how nurturing, she came across, because she was trying to help him with his snorkeling gear. So then, well, let's move on to dinner. So Jasmine asks him over dinner, is there anything you want to know about me? And that's when Eris shows his whole entire. So Eris says, well, yeah, what's your favorite sexual position? And I thought he was going to be like, I'm just joking. But he was dead serious. He was dead serious, y'all. Is Eris really 39 years old? Is he really 30? Because I'm thinking even your average 39-year-old would know better than to ask a question that a 19-year-old would ask. So, but he was serious. He says, yeah, he goes, what's your favorite sexual position? And she says, well, I plead the fifth. And so, okay, he was like, okay. So he comes up with a much, much deeper, a much more soul searching question. He asks her, so what's your favorite color? She said lavender. And so then he says, well, and he was being completely facetious. He goes, well, studies show that women who like lavender, their favorite sexual position is downward, something. Basically doggy style. And so, she kind of like laughed it off. And then he says to her, why does sex have to be so taboo? Why can't we talk about it? We're adults, we're married. Why does it have to be so taboo? And she says, well, it's not taboo. It's just that, I'm a little bit more modest. And then he says, okay, so I'm getting like you're a lady. I'm getting lady vibes from you. And she's like, yeah, I'm a lady. And then he says, well, I need you to be more of a whore. Excuse me? Oh my God. That would have been an immediate turn off for any woman, I believe. Any woman worth anything. That would have been an immediate. It's not cute. It's not funny. No, sir. Absolutely not. No, sir. This is a moment for them to get to know each other on a much deeper level. All of that sex stuff, trust and believe, you'll have plenty of time to figure out what her sexual position is much, much later. This is the time. Y'all don't know each other. Y'all are legally married, as they love to say on this show, but y'all have plenty of time this is the time to get to know each other as people. And yeah, y'all can talk about it, but you got to give me something else. And I don't know if Eris is capable of giving anything else. And then she just kind of like giggled and laughed it off and thought it was really funny. And I think in her little interview, she said something like, well, we are legally married and I don't know what she said, but it didn't seem like she was that disgusted. She was nowhere near as disgusted as I was. The next day, they're playing Frisbee. Eris says, and then, after they play Frisbee, they have a conversation. And he says that he had never been in love. And this really worries Jasmine because she doesn't understand how someone could have a long-term relationship, which he's had, but not be in love. Like, why would you want to stay with someone if you were not deeply in love with them? Stay with them for that long, because I think he had like a 1.5 year long relationship, and he says he never was in love with her. He says he had love for her. There's a lot of things that he loved about her. He really loved her cooking, but he was never in love with her like that. Head over heels, hearts in your eyes, butterflies in your stomach. I can't sleep. I can't eat because I keep thinking about this. He's never experienced that. And so that worries her it worries her because then she thinks that he doesn't have the capability of falling in love. And if he's not going to be in love at the end of this process, is he still going to want to stay with her? That's legit feelings, legit reasons. But I always question, why do people get so worried when someone says, I've never been in love? Because you could be that first for them. You could be the first person for them to fall in love with, unless you know for sure that there's something wrong with them, like psychologically wrong with them, that inhibits them from ever falling in love. Like you have, you know, they've been diagnosed by a psychiatrist or something, and you have their medical report that says this person is absolutely incapable of falling in love. Unless you have something concrete like that, why is that such a, I mean, he just hasn't met the right one. You know, not everyone is going to be falling in love at 16 years old, at 21 years old. For a lot of people, it could happen a little bit later in life. So it's okay if he's never been in love before, because Jasmine, you could be the one that he does finally fall in love with. Like, it's not that critical. So now I hope she's not going to be all in her head, okay, waiting for this man to fall in love with her. And then we're going to have another moment like, and I'm horrible with names. Nathan from last season, San Diego. Nathan and I forgot her name. You know, where she was constantly, because he had told her he had never been in love. And then once he told her that, she was so focused on that, and that she kept on testing him. Are you in love today? Do you love me now? Do you love me more today than you did yesterday? Constantly measuring how much he was falling for her. And she was so razor focused on that they couldn't do anything else. They could never move past that. And I hope that it's not going to be like that now. You've never been in love. Great. But maybe they should learn how to answer these questions better. If you've never been in love, instead of saying, yeah, I've never been in love, and leaving it at that, you can just say, I've never been in love because I've never found the right person. I've never been in love, but I'm so open to it and I want it to happen. But seriously, I don't think you should ever say that on this show, because then the other person, they're like, that's it for them. They're like, okay, you're not capable of loving. You've never been in love before. You don't have the capabilities of falling in love. And so then it just messes up the whole trajectory of the damn relationship. Moving on to Dominique and McKinley. So this is Dominique's first time out of the country. And so I forgot what day they're on. So Mac is asking her, so what do you want to do today? And she says, if we're together, then whatever we do, we'll have a good time because we're together. And he really liked that answer. So they go sailing and it was fun. Very playful flirtation. You know, he's very into, you know, the boobs, and he's a boob man, and she doesn't have a heart. I was happy that she wasn't turned off by that, you know, because I can see another woman being like, being turned off by the fact that he admitted that, hey, I'm a boob guy and I love boobs and I like your boobs and I like looking at your boobs. You know, she kind of played along with it, instead of like being turned off by it. So day 4, they're having a really nice dinner. They did have a really nice dinner. And then they go in the pool and they're chilling in the pool. And they were very much into each other. Like in the pool, they had their arms and legs wrapped around each other, and they didn't separate at all until it was time to nibble on some desserts. After that, they were like, zoop, right back together again, you know, like magnets. A lot of flirtation, a lot of chemistry. So what's his name? McKinley and Dominique, they're fine for now. Moving on to Kirsten and Shaquille. So they finally arrived in Jamaica. They only lost one day, thank God. And they talk about their trip to Mississippi. And he tells her how much he appreciated her going with him to Mississippi. And it felt really good for him to have someone there for him, someone supporting him, someone cheering him on, because otherwise he would have been doing all of this alone. And she said she was happy. She was happy to be there to support him. She was happy to be his support system. So that was good. So you can tell that at this point, Shaquille is like very, very much into Kirsten. He is definitely smitten by her. He likes her a whole lot. And she's, we'll get to that later. So they decide to go ATV riding, and he was scared out of his mind because of the accident he had from his childhood that was extremely traumatic. It was a major, major accident. So he still has like a little bit of PTSD from, riding in vehicles. And so he's very, very, very cautious. In the after party with Keisha and Pauline, he said that he has scissors in his car in case he has to cut the seatbelt if he gets into an accident. So that accident completely, traumatized him. And so when they were on the ATVs, he was cautious. He wasn't going too fast. He was taking his sweet time. And, Kirsten was like a damn speed demon. She was gone. And she kept on telling him, come on, let's go, hurry up. And he was like, nope, I'm not losing my life over here in Jamaica on my honeymoon. So he was going at 2 miles per hour, being super duper careful. But he did take the time to enjoy the moment, to enjoy the scenery. He wasn't like overcome by fear. So they're chilling in I don't know what they call those, like those wicker chairs that swing, and they're shaped like all, kind of concave and whatever. So they're in that chair together, and they're sitting very, very close to one another. And Shaquille tells her how attracted he is to her. And I think she said something like, sometimes do you feel, we're not there yet. So she says, he says that, you still give me butterflies when I look at you. The way that I feel about you now is exactly how I felt about you when I first saw you walking down the aisle. And she says, well, you're growing on me. And then he was like, so what do you mean? You weren't attracted to me before? And she was like, no, I was not attracted to you when I first saw you. And she said it was because of your bald head. She blames everything on his bald head. And I don't think that it's all about his bald head. I think she just was not attracted to him, but she blames it on his bald head because, it's easy, it's safe to say that, instead of saying, I'm just not attracted to you, your face, your body, none of it. So she blames everything on his bald head. And so then, she says that, I think this is when she asked him something like, sometimes I feel like you want to kiss me, but you don't because you're scared or something like that. And he agreed. He agreed with her, like, yeah. And then she said that she needs to feel more connected before they can kiss, and that she's not much of a kisser. She's more about physical touch. And then he says, yeah, I noticed that because whenever we're together, we're constantly like touching, and which is true. But I've seen moments where she was not touching him, but he would always like put his arm around her, or he would be the one reaching out to her. But I guess because she's not pulling back, I guess, her love language is touching. So she says she's more into physical touch than she is into kissing. And it looks like things are looking up for them. When they have conversations, they have really good, deep conversations. So I'm going to need Eris to sit in on a couple of Kirsten and Shaquille conversations and see how an adult conversation, evolves, how adult conversation goes, how it's conducted. And you just can't ask a woman that you first met, so what's your favorite sexual position? So at dinner, Kirsten and Shaquille they're having dinner, and they talk about what they need from each other. Like I said, their conversations are like so deep and so purposeful. And she says that she wants him to be more emotionally connected to her because she's been independent by herself, single for a while. So she wants to make sure that they can connect emotionally. And she also said that because of her independence and always relying on herself, she wants him to be someone that she can lean on. Because it's, exhausting to be, superwoman all the time. Then they talk about how he talks to her. I guess she says something like, sometimes I feel like you're talking at me and not talking to me, or whatever she said. And so he says he's going to be more mindful on how he talks to her, and he's going to try to do better. And she says, I just want you to relax a little bit more when we have our talks or conversations or whatever. They have really good conversation, very meaningful conversation. Kirsten and Shaquille, to me, it's like, this is how Married at First Sight is done. Initially she didn't feel that attraction for him, but it seems like, and I could be wrong, because in the after party, he said that she acts differently on and off camera. Because when they were sitting in the hammock chair, they asked him, it seems like that would have been a great moment for you to lean in and give her a kiss. And he says that he didn't feel comfortable doing that because he is confused by the signs that she gives. He said when we're off camera, she doesn't want to be touched or doesn't want to be intimate or close at all when we are off camera. But when we're on camera, then she's more open to being physically close to me. So it's kind of like, is she putting on for the cameras? Is she trying to do the right thing because of the cameras? Or what the hell's going on, Kirsten? So, as I was saying, if what we're seeing in Kirsten is real, which I'm beginning to doubt, but if what we're seeing is real, then it seems like this is the way that it should be. Like initially, she didn't have that attraction for him, but it seems like she's allowing that attraction to develop. It's not full blown, it's not halfway, it's not a quarter of a way, but it is a little seedling that's been planted and she's very slowly cultivating it. So it's definitely there. Her doors open a crack for it to happen, which is what the experts want. You're not going to feel that instant attraction right away. But because this person we've determined is right for you, because of how they treat you, how they care for you, when just you getting to know them better and seeing how they relate to you, that should develop the love and the attraction. And it seems like because he is good to her, she's beginning to open up herself a little bit more to the attraction. So far, I'm very proud of Kirsten and Shaquille. Moving on to Clint and Gina. So we found out in the after party that their luggage was, they had a really hard time on this trip. Their flight was delayed. Their luggage was lost for 3 days. They had no clothes. And so they had to shop at the gift shops for clothes. And so if anybody, they sit on the after show, I think it was Keisha, not Pauline. She was like, no wonder y'all were wearing a lot of Jamaican themed touristy type of clothes because they bought them all from the gift shop. So then when they went on their excursion, it was supposed to be a 45-minute ride. It ended up taking 2 to 3 hours to get to their destination. So they ran into a whole bunch of bumps. And she says that in the after party, she said that they handle pressure very well. So even though a lot was going on, they had a lot of curveballs thrown at them, they overcame it. They were like cool, calm, and collected. Neither one of them freaked out. And that was their strength, that in the face of adversity, they kind of like united and they just dealt with it. So when Gina took her, so they get to the waterfall, right? And she had on her bathing suit underneath this covering. So when she took off her covering, I was like, why is the cameraman like zooming in on her thighs? Because I noticed that. I was like, what's the cameraman doing? So when they're talking at the waterfall, which is beautiful and romantic, and they're in Jamaica on their honeymoon, I would have expected a little bit more playfulness between them, but it was very cold. And it wasn't on purpose. It's just that they were not able. I don't think they were connecting. Like they were trying to probably find something, but they just were not connecting. It was very awkward to watch them talk when they were at this waterfall, when I feel like if it would have been Dominique and Mac, even though for them, it's probably just this very strong physical attraction and nothing else. Like Dominique and Mac, I'm pretty sure they would have gone into the water and they would have been, all over each other. Or if it was Nicole and Chris, they would have been in the water, they just would have been very physically close. But with them, they were standing, like a foot or so apart and having a conversation and talking. And it just wasn't, I felt like there was just nothing there. So when they get back to the hotel room, she talks about how in the past she's been, very career minded and very motivated and very ambitious. And she's been with men who were not as ambitious as she was. And so hopefully now they matched her with someone who's got that same energy. Now on day 4, they wake up, they go out for drinks, I think they were at the beach or something, and they were talking about how things have gone so far. So then Gina feels like this was the appropriate time to tell Clint that she just really wasn't feeling this overwhelming gush of attraction for him. And I was like, what is bringing this on? And I'm wondering if maybe the night before, he hasn't been making a move on her. So she feels like he's not attracted either, but she's going to bring it up first, so she can play offense instead of having to play defense. Like, I didn't understand where this was coming from. It's like out of nowhere. She says that, even though she doesn't feel this attraction for him, she does believe that attraction can definitely grow. And she says that, I'm just not really into, gingers and all of your ginger, what did she say? Features. She goes, I've never really been attracted to gingers and, I'm not really into all of your ginger features. And when she said that, the look on his face, you could tell that he was crushed. You could tell that he was crushed. It really affected him. And he was trying to save face, but it wasn't working. His feelings were showing through his eyes and his face. You could definitely tell that he was like taken aback by it, and he just didn't know how to respond. And in the after party, they asked her, like, did you realize how it was affecting him? Because Shaquille said that, because the after party, it was Gina, Shaquille, and Sarah Fraser, who I follow on TikTok. So they asked her, did you see like how it affected him? And she was like, no, because I thought he took it all in stride. She's like, because he's one of those guys, he's all about being really honest and upfront and matter of fact. And so I thought he could take it. I didn't think that he took it in a wrong way at all. And then Shaquille said, girl, what? That man was obviously affected because he was quiet, and Clint is never quiet. Clint is a motor mouth. He always has something to say. And when you told him that you were not into gingers and you were not attracted to him, it affected him because he had nothing to say. Shaquille was like, that man was hurt. He was hurt. I don't know how Gina missed that, but that man was definitely hurt. And so they were kind of focused on that in the after party for a while, because Keisha Not Pauline was like, did you, looking back now, how do you feel about what you said? And she goes, well, looking back now, I definitely could have chosen a better time to say that, or that wasn't the right time to say that. She says, but we were both going back and forth. And so when I said that, it wasn't like it was just coming out of nowhere. It was just a part of our conversation, which I guess they didn't show. I have no idea. But that man was definitely affected, and his feelings were definitely hurt. And then Keisha Not Pauline asked her, what did you mean by ginger features? I'm like, Keisha, you know what that means, girl. Stop. The pale skin, the freckles, the light eyes, that kind. You know what, Keisha? You've never seen like a naturally olive complected person with red hair. Maybe they do exist. I don't know. But normally when somebody has red hair, they have pale skin. Their skin can be freckled. They have light eyes, green or blue. Come on. And so she says that normally she likes, darker skin, darker hair, darker eyes. That's what she's more naturally attracted to. But whatever. So Gina, so she said she wasn't vibing with his red hair and his ginger features. And man, I was just like, girl. And then I know with the next episode, they talk about, he's going to say something about her body, like he's more used to smaller athletic type women. And then he's going to get, I'm pretty sure he's going to get a lot of hell for saying that. But how's that different from her saying, I'm not attracted to you because of your ginger features? He can't control that. Oh, he could dye his hair, but really, he can't really control. Like, I don't understand. But then again, it's like, girl, you shot first. And then he reacted, so what do you expect him to say? What do you expect him to do? Like, he was hurt. So anyways, that was the end of that. So with Eris, they were Eris and what's her name? Jasmine. They were my number one couple in the very, very beginning, but they have slowly slipped all the way down to the bottom. Eris, you're 39 years old. Please act like it. When is the 39-year-old Eris going to show up? Please act like your damn age. I'm beginning to seriously doubt this man is 39. I think he's 29. And he probably lied about his age to increase his chances of coming on this damn show. Because I don't think they would have picked him if he was, I don't know. I don't know. I think they're more inclined to pick younger women. I don't think they're that inclined to pick younger men, especially when they wanted to match him with the woman that was in her 30s. He's got to be like 20, 25, 29 years old. I'm finding it hard to believe that Eris is 39. Anywho, I have to see his birth certificate. So slowly rising to the top for me for this week would have to be Kirsten and Shaquille, because those walls of Kirsten are slowly coming down. But then again, when Shaquille said that she's different on camera than she is off camera, we've seen this before as well, in previous seasons, and that's not a good sign at all. I'm just trying to hold on to some type of hope. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content. Go ahead and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.